In our next session, we will have two producer groups who will be sharing the slot, 5 minutes per presenter. Well, we will first start with Ms. Lorraine Walker, who is an attorney at law and former executive director of JIPO and a director and legal counsel for the Jamaica Jerk Producers Association Limited. Lorraine has been an attorney at law for more than 40 years and has worked in the private and public sectors as well as in academia. In 2002, she became the first head of the Jamaica IP office and worked very closely with the World Intellectual Property Organization. She's also worked very closely in terms of setting up the Jamaica-Switzerland GI project, which assisted Jamaica in setting up its GI framework and has thus resulted in the Jamaica jerk being the first GI to be registered in Jamaica. Lorraine, welcome.
Good afternoon. So the journey of Jamaica jerk really started with a vision that we had at JIPO, because we recognize that, you know, as small countries, we don't have big productions, big things, you know, we don't have large volume goods and so we had this vision of making our uniquely Jamaican products, you know, more marketable, more valuable on the international market, and to make them known to be uniquely Jamaican, because we're really proud of the products. So we identified 3 products, but I mean, although we had seminars and meetings about GIs, we really did not understand, you know, how do you make, you know, not make, but how do you develop a GI? And so the Swiss government, the Swiss IP office offered to help, and of course we grabbed it because you know, it would provide an opportunity for us, you know, to have somebody hold our hands through the product, through the process. And I don't think that we would be here today were it not for that GI that GI project that we had, because it, you know, we discovered that it really needs a lot of hand holding. So we started with three products, and there were the 3 products: jerk, coffee, and rum. And Mr. Gentles will speak about rum later. But jerk is uniquely Jamaican, and so we wanted to, you know, to own it and claim it, and to benefit from it economically. So in developing the GI for Jamaica jerk, I mean, we had to look at the supply chain, we had to look at the market, consumers, we had to look at the legal framework, we had to develop a code of practice, a control manual, and we had to develop, the government through JIPO developed a GI mark, and the jerk producers, of course, had to come together to agree on what exactly can be protected as jerk. So so in the early days, it was a collection of people, and you know, we with the help of the Swiss, we really interrogated you know, what makes jerk. And you know, that was an exercise that is critical. You have to know what it is that you are protecting. Next slide, please. So as I said earlier, we had meetings with different producer groups. We had meetings with farmers. We had meetings with RADA. We had RADA is the Jamaican government extension officers. So, you know, they would be the ones who would be out in the field looking, helping, giving advice to farmers about producing the various ingredients that go into Jamaica jerk. We looked at all of that because eventually we want the Jamaica jerk producers to be not just producers, but also include some farmers and so that actually grow the products that make our product what it is. Going to the next slide, please. Right. So we went out and we identified farmers and you know, and I know the intention was, because as you know, GIs is to also have local development. So for producers to engage in, to enter into agreements with farmers, you know, to produce the various ingredients that go into the GI products. So, and if we're going to maintain the GI, we have to make sure that the supply chain is strong. Next slide, please. All right, so these are the manufacturers of the GI product, jerk, seasonings, and sauces. And as I said earlier, the right now it's the manufacturers, the producers who are in the Jerk Producers Association, but the intention really is to include some of the farmers as well as we go forward. Next slide, please. Right, so this is just to give you an idea that jerk is an international product, and we have distributors in these countries. Arising out of the Jamaica Switzerland project, we entered into a trade agreement with Switzerland for mutual recognition of our GI products. Next slide, please. So we do promote jerk, and the slide is really from Greece, which has a jerk festival in New York. I think COVID would have prevented that in the last couple of years, but they usually have an annual jerk festival in New York. Next slide, please. All right, so the institutional legal framework, because with GI protection is a legal protection, so there has to be you know, a legal framework. In 2002, the Protection of GIs Act was passed. And the Protection of GIs regulations was passed in 2009, and after the regulations were passed, then the GI Act came into force, because as we know, you know, you have to put in the details of how it is done, and that's what the regulations do. So with the passing of the regulations, the GI Act came into force. Just to add that in 2018, the GI Act was amended, and the purpose of this amendment is to give all products eligible for GI protection the same level of protection, because, you know, in the past, wines and spirits had a higher protection than other products, but now all products in Jamaica that are eligible for GI protection have the same level of protection, which is the higher level. And the Amendment Act also establishes the GI Advisory Committee, which is a committee which is established really to examine the GI applications. And so that is an important amendment to the Protection of GI Act of 2004. So after the law came into force in 2009, of course, we had to work towards developing the code of practice, which is a document which really tells you all the important information about the GI. It tells you where the terroir that we are dealing with. It tells you about the ingredients. It tells you about the how the product is manufactured. So it's a very important document, and that was finalized in 2012. And as I said earlier, the Swiss project really helped us to develop this code of practice, because you really have to know what it is that you're protecting, what it is that constitutes this unique product, so that you can protect it. And so the manufacturers, the jerk producers, came together, which were, together, had been together for a while discussing the GI jerk, decided to form a company. And so we filed the papers in 2013, and the company was registered in 2014. And then and all along we were working on the control manual. And so by the time the company was formed, and the control manual was completed, we were able to make an application to JIPO to register the GI. Next slide, please. Next. So, right, so the code of practice will tell you the scope of the products that you're really seeking to protect, the geographical area, the ingredients, the manufacturing, how the product will be certified, because as we heard earlier, we can't just, this is a quality product, and the value of the product is in maintaining the quality. So so you have to have external testing of the product, external certification of the product. And the code of practice also tells you, what the GI label should say, and it also says what should happen if there's a misuse of the GI. Next slide, please. Next slide. So next slide. I think we have covered these already, the objective, the processing, and the ingredients. So the control manual, this is what is in the control manual. And it covers these areas. So it goes into a lot more detail than the code of practice. Code of practice is pretty succinct. It just goes right to the point, but the control manual will give you a lot more detail. And we know that the certification body for Jamaica Jerk is the National Certification Body of Jamaica. The Bureau of Standards provide evaluation services. And of course, the association is governed by its board of directors. Next slide, please. So I think we have heard about, what the benefits are. The GI can really improve the income of farmers, manufacturers, and distributors, because as a quality product, it can demand a higher price on the market. And as a group, it can come together and, you know, engage in marketing opportunities. And so, and also it protects, the GI will protect the you know, the heritage of the particular territory that the GI comes from, which is a huge of huge importance as well. Next slide, please. So these are some of the products, and you will see, if you look closely, you will see some of the names, that list of manufacturers. These are their products. So we have Grace here, and we have Eaton's, which is out in Trelawney, another parish in Jamaica. So these products, you know, are all over, come from all over Jamaica. And so, you know, these are just samples of the product. And these are members of the association, the Jamaica Jerk Producers Association. Next slide, please. Okay, so we you know, the national certification body is the independent certification body, and the Bureau of Standards. We have heard about services they provide. They provide evaluation services, and you know, the facilities that are used by Jamaica Jerk Producers members must be registered by the BSJ, and they must have the required certificates, which must be current. Next slide, please. So this is just a copy of our certificate of incorporation. Next slide. And then we developed this logo for the association. Next slide, please. And this is our mission. We want to gain worldwide recognition and protection of Jamaica Jerk as a protected GI. Next slide. Next slide, please. Right, this is our banner. So next slide, please. Okay, so JJPA's objectives to determine jerk producers eligible to use a GI, to enforce the code, liaise with government agencies to ensure adherence to GI standards, and the organization of collective marketing thrusts. Now, the GI, the Jamaica Jerk Producers Association, when we set it up, we included in there a committee that will do internal assessment of the compliance of members with the GI code and control manual. So the GI is first controlled internally by us and externally by the BSG and the national certification body. You really need both, because you need to know early if a producer is breaching the code, so that you can take steps to correct that situation before it becomes an issue. Next slide, please. So as you have already seen, this is the Jamaica GI mark, which was developed for use on our GI products. Well, all Jamaica GI products can use this mark, but of course, you know, it has to be certified that they can use the mark by certification of their products as a GI. Next slide, please. And this is when we applied for the GI, and you will see Carol Simpson, the previous ED of JIPO, the present executive director of JIPO, and this is one of the JJPA directors, Wayne Smith. Next slide, please. And then we got publicity for that. Next slide, please. All right, so part of the application process is that the GI has to be published in the Gazette, the Jamaican Gazette, which it was. But the 2018 Amendment Act says it introduced an amendment to this, in that the GI can be published in JIPO'S Intellectual Property Journal or in the Gazette. Next slide, please. Okay, and this is what JIPO'S registration certificate looks like. And you can see the GI is Jamaica Jerk. Next slide, please. All right, and this is how various producers have used the GI, the Jamaica GI mark. You can see it here. Next slide, please. You can see it here. It's another producer. Next slide, please. And you can see it here. Next slide, please. So I'll just wrap up, and the journey has been a bit long, but very interesting. And you know, these are the various entities and people that we'd like to thank for assisting in the process. Thank you very much. Next slide, please. Thank you.